My name's Steve and welcome to the Seaside Allotment channel. This is a quick intro. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to show you the tools that I used last year for planning the allotment, which are still pretty useful. But then I'm going to show you a new set of tools that I developed for this year, which are even better. And these are free tools that you can get really easily. So let's get on. Okay, so this is how I did my planting plan last year. I put everything that I was going to sow into Google Calendar. And so, for example, if we take a look at beans, aquadulce, then I'd have all the information about the beans in there and how I was going to sow them, what density I was going to sow them, and all that sort of thing. Same with carrots. And it would be in this nice calendar format, which was really simple and easy. The problem I had was that this wasn't quite comprehensive enough for the challenges that I had sowing early and late in the season. And particularly because I'm a newbie gardener, I'm trying to learn a lot about optimum sowing dates and things like that for my area, for my setup, which includes coal frames and hoop tunnels and polytunnels and the like. It wasn't quite enough. I probably will come back to this at some time in the future, but this is what I'm doing now. Okay, so at the simplest level, I'm planning the big crops like the onions, the garlic, the broad beans, the brassicas and things like that. I'm just planning those in PowerPoint, and I've got a PowerPoint slide for each of the seasons. So in 2018, which is where in the winter of 2018, which is where we are now, I've got some onions here, an area that I've reserved for some onions there. I've got my winter onions and garlic here. I've got my broad beans here. More broad beans here, brassicas, etc, etc. So, and it's really simple then just to flick through here. So this is how things will be laid out in the spring, this is how things will be laid out in the summer, and this is how things will be laid out in the autumn. But this only reflects one of the plots and the bulk harvests. And so I don't know, we've probably got 15 or 20 different types of crops here, but our total over all three plots is going to be somewhere in the region of 200 different types of fruit and veg. And so we need something a little bit more sophisticated. But if you've only got a few things that you're growing, just doing it in PowerPoint, so you can just flip through, easily see how the plots are changing over the seasons, is really simple and really easy, and I highly recommend it. Okay, so the next thing I did was I stepped up to using a spreadsheet. And so in this spreadsheet, I've got the type, the subtype, and the variety of seed that I'm going to sow. And I've got something that approaches a location. So, for example, I'm going to sow, there's a row that tells me how many I'm going to sow. So, for example, I'm going to sow 6 seeds in March, 6 in April, and 6 in June. And then I've got a location where I'm going to plant them. So in this case, I'm going to plant 6 on in the polytunnel, and then I'm going to plant another 4 here and another 4 here on my plot. And then I've got G, which means grow. So I've planted 6, they're growing on, and I'm going to start harvesting in late April and May. And then say later on here in October, I'm going to plant 4, and then I'm going to harvest in late November and December and January. So that's the theory. And once it's in a spreadsheet, you can do some interesting things. Obviously, you've got a nice overview of everything that's going to happen through the year. You know how much you're going to plant, and you've got a guess as to when the harvest dates are. And obviously through the year, I'll be reviewing this, looking at the actual harvest dates and modifying this so that next year this will be much more accurate. And as I said earlier, because I sow so much very early in the season and so much very late in the season, it's really useful for me to have this information embedded in the spreadsheet that I can use from year to year. Now, over time, I'll figure things out and I can go back to a simple system. But for now, this is a great way to capture that information. So I'll just show you a few other things that you can do that are really useful once you've got it in a spreadsheet. So if you just want to look at what you're going to sow, you can just type in here sow, and all the different things that include sow appear here. So for example, sowing a single seed, sowing 2 per large module, sowing 2 per plug, etc, etc, all those appear. So now I've just got the sowing date. I've got the sowing quantities and the sowing dates coming up. And if I just want to look at what I'm going to sow in, say, February, then I can just say that I don't want any blanks. So now I've got just the list of seeds that I'm going to sow in February, and I've got their numbers that I'm going to sow as well. And so it's just really, really simple to navigate your way around this. And of course, what I could do is here, I could just say, well, actually, all I'm interested in are the brassicas. So just show me the brassicas that I'm going to sow in February. And there's the list. Kale Nero, cauliflower graffiti, Calabrese marathon, cabbage red frigo, and sprouts Brendan. And so that's it, pretty much. Really, really simple. Now, the only other thing to mention is that I have published this as a database, but I'll come back to that in a minute and show you more details on that. Okay, so this is the new stuff. So there's a lot more to managing the allotment for me than just tracking when to sow things. And to do the management of the other things I'm managing, I'm going to use this application. It's called Airtable. And there's apps for your phone, and there's desktop apps, and there's web apps, and this is the web app. So in this case, I've got 4 databases. So I've got the planting plan, which you just saw in spreadsheet form, and if I just quickly open that, you'll see that it's basically the same information that I've got in the spreadsheet. But I actually prefer the spreadsheet, but the reason I've got this is because there's a really nice app for the phone. So if I need to just reference something while I'm actually on the allotment, I can take a look at this. But slightly more clunky, and the automatic colouring and things like that don't work. So if I go back, what else have I got? So I keep a tally of how much I've harvested, and I'll show you that in a minute. I also keep a log of everything that I've sown, and I also have a log of everything that I've spent. So let's just quickly have a look at the spending log. So you can see here I've got a column here that says what have I spent the money on. So compost, seeds, more seeds, fruit trees, Bacillus thuringiensis, whatever it is, which you use to kill caterpillars on the brassica plants, and Ungigap kale, some more seeds basically. And how much did I spend? So I've got that there, and you can see the fruit trees cost me £75, which is quite a lot. And where is that spent for? So the compost was for the garden, the seeds were all for 3 plots, the fruit trees for my plot, etc, etc. For which year? So that's 2019. That just makes it easy for me to add up the total spend for 2019, and some photos. And because I've got the photos, it's quite nice because at the moment I'm just looking at this grid view, but I can simply switch to the gallery view, and then I get this really nice visual record of everything that I've spent. And if I go back to the grid view, what I can also do is I can group this by month, for example. Pick a field to group by, for which year, for example, and it will give me the tally for this year. So this year so far I've spent £132, for example. So I really like that, and I just like the fact that I've got it on all my devices. So I've got it on the web, I've got it on the desktop, and I've got it on my phone. And Debbie and I have both update it on our phones, and the same sort of master source of truth is being updated in all cases. So I really like that. And next one I've got is my harvest tally. So this is very similar. So in this case I've got the harvest date, which just defaults to the day that I create the entry. Who did the harvest? who the harvest was for. So in lots of cases it's for multiple people, for example. Photos of the harvest, the number of boxes that we harvested, and we've calculated that, roughly speaking, averaged over a year, a harvest box has a value of £2.50, and so this one just multiplies the number of boxes by 2.5 to give the value in pounds, and then automatically just calculates the month that we did the harvest in. So this is nice because it means, for example, I can again look at the gallery and I can see pictures of what I've harvested for each of the weeks, or sorry, each individual harvest. I can look at this grouped by week, and so I can see that in the first week we harvested £53. This is the first week of January. £53 worth of veg. In the second week, £15. In the third week, £65. And so far, in week 4, only a few days into that, we've harvested £23. And so we've got a total of £155 harvested. So yeah, I really like that. Again, same story. I've got this on my phone, on the desktop and everything, and I can export all of this data to Excel if I want to do some more analysis of what we harvested when. And then I've got my sowing log. So this is everything that I've sown this year so far. So I've started off with a batch of radishes, for example, and then some brassicas, and then some leeks and onions, and some beetroot, and some potatoes, and some tomatoes. And it says how many stations, so how many plugs in a tray, for example, have I planted, the number of seeds that I put in each station, so the number sown, which is just that number 20 multiplied by that number 3, so that gives us that number 60. So I sowed 60 French breakfast radishes, for example. A picture of the seed packet, which I find really useful because I'm often getting seeds from different places, and so knowing exactly which seed packet did I get those radishes from is pretty good. And the sowing date, and then we can go across a bit. And we've got the sowing location, which was the windowsill in the bedroom, and the germination date, and then the number that I planted. So I haven't planted all of those yet. I planted 110 of those, and they were planted in the cold frame. And it's interesting, when you actually do this, you've got a list of here, and you can select multiple of these. So if you planted a batch of radishes and you put it in 3 places, then you can capture that. And the date that I actually planted them in that cold frame, which was the 20th of April, and then I would have the first harvest date and the last harvest date. And then it calculates, this database calculates the number of days it took to germinate. So it took those radishes 5 days to germinate. And the only ones that I've actually planted out are the Scarlet Globe, and so here it took 10 days. So it took 10 days from planting the seed in the plug to planting it in the cold frame, and then eventually I'll be able to calculate automatically the number of days that it was in the cold frame, and which is an error at the moment because it's not, we haven't harvested it yet. Days to the first harvest, and the number of days that we harvested for, and I'll put a harvest photo in there, which I think is quite nice to have, and then any problems that we had. So for example, if we got a lot of mildew on the leaves or something like that, or the planting density was too high and should have, instead of planting 3 seeds to a plug, I should have planted 2 seeds to a plug or whatever, or maybe I planted too early. You know, all the problems can go in there. And I'm going to give everything a rating out of 10, just as a simple way to sort of say, yeah, this sowing of radishes got a 10. It was really great. It tasted really good. I had no damage to them or whatever. Just as a way of quickly ranking the things that did best overall, and then some notes. So in this case, I moved them to the polytunnel straight after germination. So the light levels increased from what they would have on the windowsill. So that's it. And you can see that there's a lot of information in there, and it's just really great to be able to capture that on the phone as you're actually out and about on the allotment, as you're sowing things, wherever you are. You just click a photo, fill in a few bits of information. Most of these fields are automatically calculated. Yeah, it's just really simple. Everything gets a unique ID. So, and that's the unique ID I put on the label. So that label says French breakfast radish number 1, and that's a unique number that's associated with that batch of seeds that I sowed, and it makes it much easier to keep track of everything. I don't have to write the date that I sowed it or anything like that on the label. I can just put French breakfast radish. In fact, I could just put number 1, and then I could just look it up in here, because I will always have it on my phone. And again, you've got this really nice gallery view here that shows you pictures of everything that I sowed, and of course I can filter these just like I could with any spreadsheet, and I think I've also got this calendar view as well, which shows me on the calendar the things that I sowed, and so I can see all the details based on the calendar view. And so yeah, I really like that, and I find that's really useful. So I think that's everything. Yeah, spending, harvest, sowing, and the planting plan. Now what I've done is I've just made all of these available if anybody else wants to play around with these. So if you look in the description for this video, you'll see that on this Airtable universe, I've published under Steve's Seaside Allotment the allotment harvest tally database, the allotment spending log database, the allotment sowing log database, and the sowing and planting plan. And if you take a look at those, all of them come up like this. There's a bit of a description about them. There's the sample database here, which has got initial information in it that's from the last month or so, and it's very easy just to go and modify any of these to suit your needs. So if we just went into the harvest tally, for example, oops, I just need to go back into the harvest tally, and if I just remove that group, okay, so if in your case you want to change the people, then you can just go in here and say, I remove John and Jenny and Steve and Debbie, and just add your own names. If you always just harvest for yourselves and you don't want that field at all, you can just go in here and you can just delete that field. If you don't want a photo, you could delete that field. If you don't track numbers of boxes, but you track the weight in pounds, for example, you could just go in here and again customize that field, type in here weight in pounds, and then you just put the number in pounds. And then, for example, if you want to customize how you calculate the value in monetary terms, you can go and customize that. And instead of it being the number of boxes times 2.5, in your case, then it would be the weight in pounds times, say, 2. Whatever is the formula that you use. Or you could just put the actual value in pounds in directly. So in that case, you would pick, instead of formula here, you'd just pick number. And so then you could just say, this is the number in pounds value that we harvested. And that, I think, is pretty much it. So that is how we're doing our sowing for the year and managing all of the activities that we have on the allotment. And yeah, it's way simpler and easier and quicker than it was last year when we were tracking things all on spreadsheets. And of course you could be much more sophisticated than this, and in fact lots of people are much more sophisticated, but this is, we're just on a learning curve, so this is just one step up in complexity from where we were last year. Should give us a lot nicer data and help us improve next year. So what I should just say is that all of these databases are free, and this is what it should look like, I think, if you go and follow the link that's in the description below. And so you have a number of options here. So if you click on follow, for example, and that will give you the option to create an account. So you can sign up for a free account using this option at the bottom here, or you can sign in with Google. And you can just sign in with your email and password. So if you click follow, then basically you'll get a notification, I think via email, every time I make a change to these databases. That could be pretty useful. If you are particularly just interested in the harvest tally, then you can just follow that one, and the option is in the bottom left hand corner down there. And again, it's the same, just click on follow and you'll get a notification whenever I update this one. If you want to use one of these databases yourself, then you click on copy a base, which is up here in the top right hand corner. And when you copy a base, I'll just have to go back to my ordinary account here. Let's just look at, say, one of the ones in the featured section. So let's take a look at this one. So if I want to take a copy of that, then that will now appear in my list of databases, and I can then customize it, give it my own title. I can choose the color that it appears and the icon that's used to display it. I can move it to a different place, to a different workspace in here, or I could just delete it. So in my case, I'm going to delete it. But also you could just open it and edit it, and whatever. It's yours now, so it's your own copy. So that is pretty much it. So if you found that is interesting, then it would be great if you could leave a comment. If you didn't, then leave a comment as well and tell me why. Alright, well, I hope you found it useful, and I will see you soon.